and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie J, up in the Great White North in Canada. Again, yet another fitting background as I am expecting another 10 inches of snow overnight tonight, just for fun, because why not? And I don't know if it was last week or the week, if it was happened before last week's show or not, but about 45 minutes north of me, in a 48-hour window, had just over 4.5 feet of snow. So I'll let the group process that one as we move to the rest of the intros, because I don't care who you are or where you were located. 4.5 feet of snow is a truckload of snow, quite literally. That municipality, which is just a little bit north of where I live, did have to declare a 3-day state of emergency to allow for dump trucks and excavators to be brought in to clear the major highways in and out to allow groceries and supplies, etc., to come in and out of that area.
Dang.
And to be honest, the snowplows took care of the rest. If there's one thing Canadians are good at, it is dealing with snow, even in large quantities. We are pros. It is like, everyone needs the niche, and that's our niche. Anyways, it is what it is. So we have a great show planned for you today. Over here to my right, we have the real Alex Gibbons. Catch his content over on Arrowhead Attic. That's the written word. And then directly after this podcast, joining Coach, you will go ahead and catch Alex and Coach giving you all you need to know about your fantasy teams in terms of picks and who to drop, who to go for, etc. Down directly below is Mr. Jack Kenna, representing his Las Vegas Raiders. And will give us all the insight in terms of recent changes and things to look forward to and all that good stuff with his team for all of you Raiders fans that are joining us this evening. We do believe Robert may be joining us. He has started a new job that has kind of pushed his schedule a little bit all out of whack, and we're hoping he'll be here a little bit later on this evening. But in the meantime, do we ever have quite a bit of football to talk to you about? Anywho, I don't know if we want to start with the latest game, but it certainly was an interesting one between the Browns and the Broncos. Or do you want to go to one of the other teams instead?
Well, we could start with that Monday night shootout.
The shootout, eh? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it was an interesting one, to say the least. It went obviously a little bit different than I had originally predicted for my Denver Broncos. We did still win. We did still win by, a margin of 10. Just the entire score was just moved quite a bit upward, if you will, in terms of the total score for both teams. Super interesting game. Obviously, as a fan of football, that was exactly what you wanted to see, because, unless you're a Broncos fan, having that kind of volley back and forth is the type of game you want to watch, not necessarily what I wanted to watch. Big difference. Right? Big difference. Either way, we had some good, bad, and ugly for my Denver Broncos in that game. There's really no other way of putting it. Too many Broncos fans, in my opinion, are lauding the offensive line for not allowing a sack in that game. And, while that might be true, there is a tremendous amount of a combination of pressure and other things that kind of forced Bo Nix into trying to make throws that he otherwise wouldn't. The Browns also rushed fewer than most other teams would in order to leave more folks in coverage. And that also then forced Bo Nix to make some dangerous throws. And obviously we had 2 interceptions for Bo Nix on the day there. Thankfully, none of them returned for picks. But we did end up, obviously, with 2 pick sixes against Jameis Winston. And as we can go ahead and dive right in, we got the full Jameis experience, the full Jameis.
That was right in line with my prediction that he would, throw it. I mean, throw a turnover to end the game.
Yeah, actually, it very much was. In fact, you may have even said he was going to throw a pick and it was going to end the game as like a dagger.
I think I did, man. We definitely got full blown Jameis though. 500 yards and 4 touchdowns and 3 picks. Well, really 5 touchdowns. No, 6.
6 total.
2. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Let's not steal my thunder because there's a few things I want to quickly run through in terms of stats that I think are really important. I do have to give, flowers where they're due to Jerry Jeudy, who decided that he wanted to play wide receiver against his former team, which is exactly why I am glad he is no longer with my team. Because when you decide to finally play as like the FU game, so to speak, and you want that to be against your former team, but the entire time you were with that team, you decided that it was a nice vacation for you to then enjoy the Rocky Mountains there. Good riddance. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. You know what I mean? See ya. Is all I got to say.
Game for him, that's for sure. I mean,
so
9 catches, 235 yards,
235. So 1 touchdown, 9 receptions, 235 yards. I have some additional information in terms of how that actually happened because it was obviously not something that anyone would have expected. That's where you really do miss Riley Moss. Yeah. I do also want to give the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit of credit for a record that Jeudy broke that was initially held by the Kansas City Chiefs in a Curtis McClinton, who against my Denver Broncos was the only wide receiver to post a 213-yard game as a single wideout against my Denver Broncos. And unfortunately, his record that was set in 1965 was just beaten by Jerry Jeudy in that game. A little bit of history for you on the Wild Wild West. Who knew? And another one is Jerry Jeudy also set an NFL record, as in league-wide, for the most yards ever that a former player has gained against his former team to date. Now, in today's NFL, I do suspect that at some point that will be beaten. This is a very pass-heavy league. Yeah. And I think that at some point you're going to start seeing those sorts of things maybe happen a little bit more frequently.
That's a hell of a performance, though.
It is.
I mean,
it's been a pass-happy league
what's up, the last 3-4 years. And
right.
And I mean, we don't see too many of those games. So.
You don't, but I just think that in the current environment that we live in the NFL, I think there's a reason why it took so long for that record to be beaten. But I also think that in the current NFL, you're more likely to have it beaten. Another thing to note: Jameis Winston had a total yards against my Denver Broncos, 446, which is right in line with the type of game you see from Jameis Winston. He also had 4 touchdowns, which is what you get with the depleted and injured secondary. However, this is very important. Jameis Winston did not only have 446 yards like his stat line says. The NFL is lying on their stat sheet. I think we need to give Jameis Winston full credit for all statistics that he had for that evening against my Denver Broncos. Jameis Winston's actual statistics was that he threw for a total of 567 yards and 6 touchdowns. However, sadly for Jameis Winston, 121 of those yards were for the Denver Broncos, as well as 2 of those touchdowns, which I will happily take. Thank you very much. And we will happily take those stats working in our favor, which is exactly why we got the full Jameis in that game, and there is absolutely no denying it.
Yeah, he wasn't eating a dub on that one. He was just, I don't know if you know about it. He's
he just gave up the crab leg on that.
Yeah. So, want your guys' thoughts on the game?
He's a Seminole, so.
I want
Florida State half-asses. There you go. Yep. Florida State half-asses.
I'd like your guys' comments on the game. Obviously, the outcome was what I was hoping for, maybe not necessarily score-wise and kind of the look and feel, but the outcome was at least what I was hoping for. What are your guys' thoughts in terms of what you saw?
The outcome, yes.
Kind
of like I said, I mean, that game went about as I thought it would. I thought the total score would be lower, but I figured that there'd be some passing, from the Browns, and that it would come down ultimately to, a Jameis turnover to end the game. And I mean, realistically, he had two of them that kind of started the game and put the nail in the coffin at the end.
Hey, bookended it. Bookended it.
And then I don't know. Part of me, I remember, after the game, kind of asking, did the Browns find some things in the Broncos defense for teams to, exploit as we finish the year out? But I think most of it was, I think a huge part of it was Riley Moss not being out there, because Levi Wallace was just getting roasted. And obviously Judy, added component that you knew he was going to be going balls to the wall in this game. If he did anything in his career, it'd be in this game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think there were some things that potentially could be exposed as, the season wraps on, as, it's a kind of a copycat league. So I'm curious to see how other teams, try to play them now.
Sorry, yes and no. So I'll let you finish, but the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
So what you saw was the Browns incorporated way more pre-snap motion, just like the Ravens did, which is baked into their offense, given the fact of their offensive personnel. And that is including the fact that they were missing their number 2 wide receiver in that game against my Denver Broncos. They also were intentionally capitalizing on the fact that, just generally speaking, that Moss was not there. Riley Moss is a very low-key, elite-level cornerback in the NFL, and has proven over the course of the season to be just that. And the Browns kind of knew that they needed to scheme through pre-snap motion to, one, verify if it was zone or man, and two, to get Judy away from Pat Surtain, because if they wanted Judy to be the guy, which they did, they needed to get him not covered by Surtain, and they were able to do it, obviously, for to the tune of 235 yards for a lot, right? You'll also note that what they struggled to do based on his statistics was they were able to get Judy to get down the field in chunk yards. But what they were unable to do was to get him to consistently break in and catch the ball in the red zone and the end zone. For that, they required the Njoku and their running back there to catch the ball for those touchdowns. Nick Chubb had one of his worst games statistically. In fact, there was a reference to the bus for his statistically important game way back, where he had something like -5 yards, but like 3 touchdowns in terms of a stat line. Yeah. And Nick Chubb was not that far off. He had something like, it was like -1 yards or 3 yards or something like that, but 1 touchdown. It was a really remarkable stat line for Chubb for his game back. But nonetheless, he got the touchdown. He got the 7 points. Like, you can have all the worst, you put points on the board. That's a huge plus for your team, whether regardless of the stats, it doesn't really matter. But Alex, to kind of circle back to the original question at hand here, is this a blueprint? Perhaps, although I believe that there is going to be much discussion in my bye week for my team this week, which is a bye week for the Broncos, because what we really saw was a lack of communication in the scheme change in terms of handoffs. You need to look no further than Levi Wallace when he got torched on that massive the biggest play of the game to Jerry Jeudy. He looked over his shoulder to see, do I have safety help? Well, when you work with guys long enough, you don't need to. You just know they're there. Like, it's just an intuitive thing, right? And so those sorts of things will get worked out. I do think Wallace ought be cut, because I think regardless of what happened, I would personally much rather see Abrams Drain, our rookie, out there. he came in a little bit later in the game, and he had some decent plays, not fantastic, but decent plays. But I would rather get him those reps. I would rather get him into the game to get him that experience so that we can go into the draft knowing if we need yet another depth piece, or if Abrams Drain can actually be that guy for us, perhaps, and maybe we just start taking a couple athletic flyers for guys that are maybe hurt coming into the draft that could have been really high draft picks, and then just kind of, take those flyers and say, hey, if they work out, they work out, and if they don't, they don't. So I think that it could be seen as a blueprint, but I don't think it's going to be a long-lasting one, because I think that it's going to be one of those things that Vance Joseph, if there's one thing we can count on, at least him as a defensive coordinator, maybe not so much a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, he will for sure make those adjustments, because he will not allow that same thing to happen twice. He just won't. Like the Miami game was a one-shot deal, and then we were basically an elite level defense from that game on.
Right? I just can't imagine seeing that many teams get 400 yards on your Broncos. I mean, this game totally threw me for a loop. I mean, never expected to see this type of score. I called it so much closer. I think I called it a 3-point game going to Cleveland, just the way that defense has been playing, the way your Broncos defense has been playing the whole season. And I mean, between them, that's 952 yards combined. Mm-hmm. I mean, who would have ever would have guessed that? So I don't know. I can't see it being a blueprint either, just because of the defenses, especially your defense.
I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to Mario. You're 48 yards short. You can't get 1,000. You guys,
yeah, come on,
both of you.
Piss poor.
Yeah,
game.
they get those last parts off to get past the the line of scrimmage, right?
These guys. These guys.
The other thing that was an important thing to note in the game was just the overall lack of run game, generally speaking, from both teams. Mm-hmm. Sean Payton was correct in his assessment of the Browns' weakness in the run game, and that was kind of the seam outside zone tosses that Jaleel McLaughlin was able to break off and do well in. That was really the extent of the run game. That was it.
Away from you.
Oh, good Lord, please stop.
Well, no one else got over 4 touches except for McLaughlin. So, but this is the bombs away.
And here's the other piece that really irks me about this game. This is now the second or third game where we saw Williams start off poor, spike in the middle of the season, and now he's tanking again in terms of his production. This is exactly what he cannot do and what he could not do if he ever wanted to showcase himself to maybe get a contract as a second contract after his rookie that is meaningful in any way. But in my opinion,
who's molesting that dog, man? First off, who's that?
It's not mine.
That's my daughter. She's running around with.
That's too good. Sorry.
She's running around with Piper upstairs. But my issue is just the running game. You're looking at the last 4 games after this bye week, and then you end up looking at potentially the playoffs there. And you cannot do much in the postseason once that weather starts to really cool down, unless you can be two-dimensional. You need that second dimension. You need to be able to pass the ball and run the ball. The Chiefs, look no further than the Chiefs, Pacheco and Mahomes. You have those kind of exactly like you have those that kind of double-edged sword there, where if one isn't working, you can flip to the other, and then you can build one off of the other and figure it out. Jack, I actually kind of look at the Raiders offense a little bit and think, man, could you imagine what your team would potentially look like if you had Josh Jacobs still?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, that's like one of the biggest Achilles heels the Raiders have had. They just can't run the ball.
Right.
Yeah, but Josh Jacobs still couldn't do all the things that he did behind this porous offensive line. It's kind of like people were saying, like, look what we could have had if we would have drafted Stroud. And people were saying how great Stroud was. No, Stroud didn't have the offensive minds back then. So it's apples and oranges. If you bring Josh Jacobs this year behind this line, he's going to suck. But I
don't agree, actually. I don't agree, because the Raiders have had an equally poor offensive line in a couple of years past. And
the same line.
And Josh Jacobs has still produced.
But they're running zone blocking this year until they finally got rid of it, and they were running power under Jacobs. That's the big difference. Is the scheme in front of them.
I can see that scheme matters for a running back as well as offensive line. But I also wonder if you have what I would argue is a feature back, if you wouldn't have just simply stuck with what had worked and then gone in that direction anyway.
Well, definitely probably would have worked more in what Jacob does well. But we also had a running back in Zamir White where he has no vision. And he can't just, make the cuts and then break. Where Josh Jacobs, he always makes the first guys miss.
Yes.
And he can go either way. He can do power. He could do zone. He makes guys misses where Zeus, he just runs straight forward and runs right into whoever the defensive tackle is.
Right. And that's actually kind of one of the big things that I'm looking at with my Denver Broncos. I have two major critiques. We have Estime, who's looking like he can be a solid back. He seems to have the ability to kind of do the right things and all that sort of stuff. I do think that he may have we'll call it an injury. He may just be banged up, and I think they're actually trying to hold him back to kind of get him back to being full strength again. Like, I think he's sore. I don't think he's got an injury. I just think that he's not like 100%, and I think the Broncos are looking at the odds and saying, we want him for the first round of the playoffs, so we need to kind of ease him back in to make sure that he can go for us in the playoffs. I'm also looking at Javonte Williams, and I don't think that he's going to be a tradable player for my Denver Broncos. I think that he's a guy that you're just going to have to let walk. And at that point, you may as well just cut him now. And in my opinion, start scouring other teams' practice squad dudes that you actually liked, that were kind of that interesting size speed mix, and sign them to your 53-man roster to, again, see if you can bring in some kind of an additional spark to your run game. Because as you're looking ahead and as you're wanting to go into the postseason, getting them onto your roster sooner rather than later to get them worked in, especially with the bye week coming up, now's the time to do it. And it infuriates me when you let time like this go by and not capitalize on things for your team, especially when you're trying to do something that your team has missed out on for the last 7 seasons.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do if they do exactly what you say.
But we have not been back to the playoffs since we won the Super Bowl. The Broncos have literally missed the playoffs every year since. And I think most other teams, if not every other team in our division, has at least been to the playoffs once in that time frame, except for my Denver Broncos. This season is definitely looking like it's the exception, statistically speaking, unless there's some kind of major collapse of some sort.
Have you looked at anything like anyone who they could pick up to replace them if you think that should be the way they go?
I'll be doing it later this week. I wanted to drop the the seed in people's minds because that's what I would certainly be doing if I was Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. But we will wait to see. I want to kind of do a little review of running backs that are existing on other people's practice squads to see if, like, I like a guy like Latavius Murray. I just don't know if he's on another 53-man roster or if he's on a practice squad. I think a guy like that, maybe not have the size speed, but he's got the size and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So the one thing the Broncos are missing is the Warhammer, the dude that's like, we'll call it the equivalent of Derrick Henry, for example. I'm looking for another guy that might be.
I think you could argue there's 31 other teams missing that.
Well, yes, I know, but Latavius Murray is kind of like a more affordable version of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
with a little less speed. And that's a guy that I know Sean Payton has familiarity with. Yeah, he is. And so, like, that's why I bring him up. Yes.
Although he's old as hell, I think he's...
And a former Denver Bronco, too. He was with the Broncos for a little bit, too. So,
anyways, on the Bills.
34, and he's on the Bills. I did look it up while you were spouting. I think that he's actually on their 53. But, yeah, former Raider. I remember that game, by the way, Real Givens, the Thursday night game, that when we were 0-10, and then we were 1-10 because we beat the Chiefs. Latavius Murray had a wonderful touchdown, and then got knocked out too. So I did that. So,
well, this is the thing, right? Knocked up. When you have a guy like Murray, he's actually a perfect fit for the Bills. They play cold weather. He's got the size and height. He's a great blocker in terms of pass protection because he's basically he's the size of a defensive end effectively. Yeah, the dude's like 6'3", 230 anyway.
Like Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyways, he's an example of someone that I would be interested in. Or if there's another guy that might be a younger UDFA from college that maybe Sean Payton really liked in either this year or last year's draft that's maybe on another team's practice squad, in my opinion, now's the time to take the flyer on them because I don't think Javonte Williams is going to show you anything you haven't already seen. I think you already have a proven commodity in Jaleel McLaughlin. I think you kind of see, he is what he is, and he's looking good.
The hell of a singer.
Yes, sure. Yeah. I mean, you always get the whiny voice going, right? You always get the whiny voice. And thank God that lady is not in Canada. But anyways,
10 cents a day you can feed a small child.
You can keep this kid, and I'm going to go and I'm going to take Sally Struthers' job too because those kids in Africa are hungry. Well, I'm just going to do it all, baby, because I'm thinking about the arms of the angel. Sorry,
but anyways, that's when you look at your team, you're looking for guys that fit roles. Like, so for example, Kareem Hunt fills that secondary role as that great 1-2 punch. Like the Chiefs have kind of stacked their team in such a way that is exactly what I'm thinking the Denver Broncos really ought to be doing or looking to do at the running back position. And, the other thing to start looking at is additional depth in some other positions by elevating certain players in certain key position groups to kind of start seeing what you either have or don't have coming into the postseason, because injuries are bound to happen, as well as off season. So, for example, I think Powers and McGlinchey are kind of going to be both on notice in terms of their status with the team. I also think that an offensive center is something that the Denver Broncos are going to be looking at because, we've had some challenges there, both in special teams as well as, the run game. And that's really where the Broncos are lacking right now is we're not getting the run blocking in order to get get that second dimension going like we had last year. And that starts and ends really with the offensive line.
Don't know that feeling.
That starts and ends with the offensive line. Because if your dude isn't touched until the second level, you could have a trash running back and they're still going to get 3 to 4 yards a carry for the majority of the game. And so starting with your offensive line by getting that great run blocking like the Chiefs have, like the Chargers have, allows your run game to get going regardless of who's in the backfield.
Well, Rich, I talked about this a little bit before the show. There's a couple Kansas City offensive linemen in the middle that are going to be free agents next year. So there's Humphreys at center.
No, there'll be one. There's no way they let.
There's no way they're letting Humphreys.
No, I know that, but still, I got a piece.
Trey Smith be the only one.
I'm kind of looking at the Raiders hopefully going after him.
Yeah, I was going to say I see that as the newest version of taking Rodney Hudson away from the Chiefs. Yep. I can see them taking that guard.
Yeah, dude, he was so good.
There is no way the Chiefs are getting rid of their center as the quarterback of their offensive line with the
he's going to stay.
Yeah.
He's going to stay. I agree with that. And the Raiders don't need a center, by the way, anyway. They got JPJ, so that wouldn't be the guy that they would be targeting.
I agree. So either way, it was an interesting game. The Broncos did what they needed to do at the end of the day and ended up winning. There's a few quirks in that game that were somewhat concerning. And I do want to just quickly touch on one thing because I just kind of want to put a pin and kind of end the Broncos talk for right now. Immediately after the game on Monday or Tuesday, we outright cut Josh Reynolds.
I didn't even know he was there.
Yeah. Said, see ya.
So he was signed to we signed him on a front-loaded contract from Detroit this year. And he played fairly well at the beginning of the year, got hurt, and then got shot.
Oh, that dude. Okay.
The shot guy.
In the hand. Was out for an extended period of time. And with the emergence of the gadget ability of Marvin Mims, and
time to trim the fat.
It was just time to get rid of him because they couldn't find a way to get him onto the field because his spot was effectively taken over and locked down by Devon Vele, my guy, the one that I predicted in the draft to come to my Denver Broncos, and he is killing it. He is exactly what Tim Patrick used to be for my Denver Broncos. Throw in his general vicinity in his catch radius, and he's got a 90 percentile probability of catching that ball.
Well, you figured if he was going to get shot somewhere, it would have been shot in Detroit, but we were wrong, weren't we?
I agree. I'm not going to lie. Although, Captain, in fairness, the details of that particular shooting didn't really come out in public, so he may have just brought Detroit to Denver.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said it because that was my next zip.
Like you may have just brought Detroit to Denver with him, right?
Yeah.
But and I'm north of the border, so y'all can't get me. But that's it's unfortunate. You never like to see a guy go through that. Thankfully, he was fine. Thankfully, he was safe. Apparently, it was an actual drive-by, and I think someone. I don't think they're fatally shot, but they were much more seriously hurt than he was.
And he got shot in the hand.
In the hand,
as a wide receiver too.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Just a hole.
Better than getting shot in the buttocks.
From LA.
Yeah.
Oh, he got shot out of the strip club.
Dropping insider information here. Shotgun Willies, man.
Yeah, JC Weaver's on it. JC Weaver's on it. There you go.
So, JC, I have to admit, I had forgotten that. DZ, I have already posted my response to that particular comment, and I have had a couple of my friends that are in the U.S. say that I should just walk across the border like everybody else.
You better do it soon.
No, but my comment is I refuse.
There's not going to be a wall going from United States to Canada, Cap. So
I'm just saying but the way that because I tell you, there's a lot of folks that are coming. They fly over the United States to go to Canada to get in that way because they think that it is easier because they figure not too many people are watching that border, but it's going to get really, really tight, a lot more than it was. Thank God.
And I had two comments. One, I would love to be the 51st state. I just hope to be an American citizen sooner rather than later. But I refuse to walk across the border to have my first act of being an American be an illegal act. So I'm just going to sit back and wait.
That's the American way, baby.
I'm just going to sit back and wait.
You got a lawyer, though.
So But
you just gotta make your way to Missouri.
Either way, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope one day it happens because.
When they say the 51st state, are they saying your province or the entire country?
Well, there's a two-for comment made there, DZ, and I'll elaborate because I actually know the details of the conversation that you're referring to. There's a conversation. There's a conversation with Trudeau where there was a threat of a 25% tariff put on a lot of Canadian goods. Yeah. And in a private conversation, there was a comment made to say, well, I mean, we basically take care of all your security anyway, so you're basically the 51st state anyway. So maybe we'll just outright own you as a 51st state and go from there.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I was waiting on that comment to go in and said, you piss off Arada Boricua, baby.
Well, and then there was another comment made by somebody else in the room, and then the secondary response was, you're right. We should probably sever Canada in half because it's just so big. The left side can be the conservative side and the right side can be the liberal side. And then that way we've got an even balance of states that we bring in. So it'll be the 51st and the 52nd state.
Yeah, but if you can't do that, though, because if you're talking about the left side, that would automatically make them the more liberal side than the right side.
No. The majority of the provinces on the left-hand side of Canada.
I understand what you're saying, but if you're going to go semantically, if you're from the left,
you got to relocate them. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do what they were going to do in Rwanda and Burundi, and they were going to have all the folks that were the one tribe, the Tutsis and the Hutus. They were going to go back, and that was the way they were going to do it.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because the far left-hand side of Canada, they are insane.
Yes.
like as in like I'd be totally cool if they weren't part of my country.
That's like Northern California and Southern California.
Yeah, like dude, like they're nuts. They've legalized every single drug and they have nothing but problems. They have crime galore. It's disgusting. And what's horrible is that's British Columbia, by the way, for those of you who don't know. It is one of the most beautiful provinces in all of Canada. Like as in you fly in and you just look around and you're like, it's absolutely stunning. Like the mountains and the wildlife and all that kind of stuff. But the major cities there are absolutely just in disarray as a result of drug use. Yeah, as a result of drug use. It's so bad. It is bad. But anywho, I digress. Back to football. Let's jump over to the Las Vegas Raiders since we happen to have two Raiders here with us.
Well, I just got to say one thing, before we hop over the Raiders. I got to say another one of your players that I was like, I'm so impressed with is Nick Benito. I mean, he's phenomenal. I mean, 11 sacks. I mean, he's like doubled Max Crosby or almost 2.5 times Max Crosby right now. I mean, he's playing out of his mind. I didn't even know who the guy was before the season started. So I just got to say, I mean, it's like, wow, where did this guy come from? He's just like on fire.
He's a beast.
But maybe he gets held and they actually call people holding him as well, unlike Crosby.
So what Benito? Just some background on him, just because I think
I'm sure he's good, Richie. That was a slam.
I actually agree with you because Crosby ought get called more things in his favor, and I do agree with that. Benito is on fire right now. He has made major strides in his game. If you had asked me last season, and I think I was quite critical of Benito last season, Benito did what Pat Surtain's doing. And I got to give the dude credit. Like, you give the guy the flowers for doing the thing that you got to do in order to elevate yourself as a professional player. And he deserves all the credit in the world for actually doing it. Not just saying he's doing it, but actually doing it. Nick Benito in college, he was an underwhelming player despite his stats. And the reason why that is that Nick Benito's one move in college was, I'm going to out-athlete you. I am a faster, better athlete, and therefore I'm going to win because of it. That works wonderfully in college where the competition is much lesser. As in, they're just not as good. The NFL is literally the best of the best of the best, not just American, but internationally. The NFL is pulling dudes from all over the place, regardless of where they're from. They couldn't care less where you come from. They just want you to be the best, and that is a wonderful thing. However, Nick Bonito has now had the wherewithal, now that he's now his third year coming into the league, where he realized after his rookie season that he's not the best athlete on the field anymore.
He's got to work at it.
He's got to actually put the time into it. And over the last 2 seasons, to his credit, he has seemingly, from what I can tell, put like a top 5 list together of things that he needs to work on, and has actually started checking them off one by one in the off season and focused on a handful of things to elevate his game year over year. And again, to his credit, he's done it, and just all credit to him. Like, you just got to give the guy, his due effectively for doing the right thing. He is absolutely on fire this season.
He's on fire.
On fire.
I mean, it seems like every single week, it's like there's guys like you've mentioned a lot of times on this channel, no-name guys, and they're all stepping up. And it's like they're not going to be no-name guys anymore because they're showing, the work they're putting in. And I never thought your defense would be this good, and it really blows me away. I mean, how often and you guys are getting to the quarterback. This is what 2 this last game, once against the Raiders. Well, you got probably 4? I'm going to guess 4 pick sixes. I know 3 for sure. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's a credit to Vance Joseph. That's a credit to the coaching. That's a credit to the players for actually putting in the work and the effort to actually steadily elevate themselves to that point. But Jack, and you know this from my critique of Justin Simmons, the team is not doing it to the detriment of the other areas of the defense. And what I mean by that is they're not selling out the defensive play just to get the pick six. They're playing sound defense, and then because they're playing sound defense, they're then able to be opportunistic and get the pick six. What we saw with the Denver Broncos with a guy like Justin Simmons is he would allow the other elements of his game suffer and I mean truly suffer, and then go for the pick six as a stat line item to elevate his personal stats. What you're seeing with the Denver Broncos now is the collective group playing as a collective group. And then as a result of playing as a team, as a collective group there, they're able to individually become opportunistic and get those pick sixes. Just look at the Browns game. It was a different guy every play that got the pick six. It wasn't the same player who was selfishly trying to target and look for the play and look for the thing. It was a different player each time that got that pick six, which kind of just goes to prove my point. I'm not trying to I'm saying like that is my point. It's a different guy every time.
Yeah, I'll give them credit, but that is Jameis Winston, who whoever's running the deep ball is the one he's going to throw to.
But that was a shallow. The last pick six was a shallow. The last pick six was a shallow crosser.
Okay, I didn't see the game.
It was a shallow crosser.
You know what I did on Monday night? Instead of watching the game, I watched NCIS, both of them, and it was more entertaining.
I don't think so.
Oh no, man, that was a pretty good game.
That was a shootout. I thought it was going to be so low scoring that it was just going to be pure defense.
So, is there any other questions on the Broncos game? I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was a very interesting game to watch. It was nerve-wracking for me as a Broncos fan because I expected certain things to go differently, and I expected other things to go also differently. We won anyways, great, but obviously it was a good game. Like you
took out all the fun right off the bat by giving Jerry Jeudy some praise. I mean, how do we go at you when you gave him praise? So
look, as JC Weaver has said about me regularly, and Captain has actually been probably my biggest cheerleader in that regard. I am beyond objective when it comes to my Denver Broncos. Like I am.
We all agree.
There may not be a more critical person of the Denver Broncos than me. However, I will also praise elements of the game that I see from my Denver Broncos at the same time when it's due. Sadly, I have high expectations, so it's very rarely due. But when like a guy like Benito, I have to give the dude credit. A guy like Pat Surtain, who has done similar things to Benito, but still has a couple other things to kind of tweak, again, deserves credit. Like you don't get to be that good by not trying and not actually putting in the work.
No, second in the NFL in sacks.
And both of those guys have done the thing. I mean, another guy that I have to give some credit to again is Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper was a 7th round pick from my Denver Broncos. Clayton, I agree. Sorry, buddy, I'm still going through the comments here. You got to give me a moment.
Clayton stole some of my thunder. Said the reason why he wait, I'm getting this right. See, I was remembering it's opposite. The reason why this guy is such a decent Bronco fan is because he doesn't effing live in Colorado. He's nice. He's Canadian. And the same thing about Clayton. The reason why he's a cool Bronco fan is because he's from Wisconsin. But I will say this. And this is a segue, and I'll let you finish, segue. The game that I was going to talk, and the reason why I'm here, the game that I'm going to talk about with this guy was so, whatever the word is. I even had Biggie Bronco come on my show on Sunday, said you guys got jobbed. If that doesn't say it all, that Biggie Bronco comes on my show and says we got jobbed, that's the segue right there. And I thank him for it because, we've been at odds before. But, Clayton's great because he's from Wisconsin. I want some cheese, by the way, Clayton. I know it's cold up there.
Spotted cow.
Yeah, but there you go. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now because I want Richie to finish, and then I want all of that. And that's the only reason why I'm here.
Let's put it this way. The good thing about my game and the one thing we're going to be talking about, obviously, in the other game is I didn't feel that the officiating in the Browns game was so egregious that it decided the game in any way, shape, or form. I felt that they let the teams play. I felt that they let the mistakes happen for the most part. The only other thing that I will say to my Denver Broncos fans is it pains me to say it out loud. Like Garrett Bowles as a guy, love the fire that he has in his belly, and I love the fact that he always stands up for his teammates and the quarterback. Could not ask for a better dude. The guy's technique on the field, though, is so beyond trash that if the officiating was actually honest, they'd be calling a penalty on him like every other play because of the way that he blocks and kind of, basically executes his position. We need to be honest about that as a Denver Broncos fan base. You just need to. I'm sorry. It's a fact. We saw such egregious holds on Garrett in that game. They only called 2 or 3 of them. Go back and watch the film. There was way more. And that's a common theme in the NFL officiating world. At some point, we will have Ref Guru on this show who will, and I'm also reaching out to the Zebra channel as well to see if we can get maybe an officiating collaboration going. Because there is a lot of really interesting things that we're seeing in the NFL where the NFL is focusing on some things and ignoring others. And they're doing that for the flow of the game from an entertainment perspective.
Wait. I got to give my surprise face on that one.
Right. And so as we look ahead and as we see all the stuff, it's just the Broncos are going to have to get used to Garrett Bowles probably staying here for a lot longer than they expected. Because I think the Broncos, when they look at the tackles, are going to be focusing more on the right tackle rather than the left tackle, because I believe the right tackle is going to be a priority. And then they're going to focus back over on Powers as the guard and the center to really bolster the offensive line and simply say Garrett Bowles is good enough. And I hate to use that phrase, good enough, but I think that's the way they're going to look at it. But just one last thing on that note, Garrett Bowles, for those of you who are wondering why I'm always so critical of him, he is the most.
He was a first-round pick.
He's a first-round pick, and he has been the most penalized, the second most penalized player since 2018 in the entire league. Okay,
well, his name is Garrett Bowles for a reason.
No, I call him Garrett Bowles
probably
for a reason.
Full year.
He did.
Yeah,
he sat out for 1 full year with an injury. So with that in mind, there's a reason why I make the comments that I do. It's not because I just dislike the people. I'm actually looking at their play on the field, and I'm simply being objective as a Broncos fan, which I know is hard to come by, but we do exist. I promise we exist. Anyways, over to the remaining 3 members here on the panel, and let's go over the Chiefs-Raiders game, and let's go.
Well, first off, I'm only here by invitation, and I thank you. I actually kind of pestered both. Wait, I'm going to get – okay, yeah. I pestered that guy, and I pestered that guy. I said I would be more than happy to come in after the game. I am not – no, wait a second, Jack. F you. I'm going to finish, okay? Because that guy, that is the Raiders representative on Wild Wild West. He is the Raiders representative, and he does such a fantastic job. And I appreciate the fact that I can be here for the game's interdivisional. Okay, that's cool, and I appreciate it. And I got one more, and boy, I know he's working now. And again, I hope that it can be the end of the last game, because I got one more game to do that's interdivisional, and I'd like to be there for it. But having said that, great company here, and I appreciate it. And again, Jack, thank you for representing Raider Nation in all that you do on this show. And it's great to be here. It's great guys to work with, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, thank you for letting me use your channel too.
No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I appreciate Kenna holding it, and that's it. Click that like button, because they great stuff here. And Butto. I know, we know. Well, we know it's Butto and guys, but yeah, but it's good. It's good. Yeah, click the Butto and guys. You know, hey, you guys, the Butto and guys. But I'm here because first off, what I tell you, this Black Friday game was a hell of a lot better than whatever they had friggin' last year. I think the Jets were on Black Friday last year. It was a snoozer. It was so bad, I don't even remember who the hell they played. Why they had it on Black Friday? Because they scheduled it before Aaron Rodgers dropped out on snap 4 on the opening game. Okay, right. So they had planned to have a real great game, but it sucked, and so does Aaron Rodgers, by the way. But it was an entertaining game. People asked me if I was going to go to the game, and the answer was no. I would have to catch a flight on Thanksgiving night to head on out to be very cold in Kansas City. No offense there, Alex. If I'm going to go to Kansas City or Missouri, yeah. If I'm going there, and I do go there for my part-time job, the Fort Leavenworth, I'm getting paid for it. If you're not paying me, I'm going nowhere near that place, and they should pay me hazard pay to going to KCI when I come in and come out, because all I see is that crap Mahomes and Kelsey crap. They're walking through the airport. It's horrible. But
it's a lovely sight.
Yeah. It's shorts weather right now.
Yeah, whatever.
In Kansas City,
not the 4.5 feet of snow you're getting, probably.
Yeah, no.
I'm looking at your weather there, man. That's shorts weather for me. I promise.
Yeah, it's shorts weather for me. Well, actually, it's not. I actually put my long pants on because it broke 60 on the bottom side. Yeah, broke 60.
There we go.
Yeah. But anyway, I wouldn't be here if I wanted to give my boy. And I did invite Alex to come on the show on Friday. I hope you got the invite. I did invite Alex to come in on the show on Sunday, but I said, yeah, that's okay. I'll wait for the show on Wednesday to go into it. But before I say anything else, and I swear I'm going to shut up for a while. If you have any, no. If you have any qualms about how the officials F the Raiders, please be sure to watch my show from Sunday, and then also watch the NFL Nation live show from earlier today, because we got the stills. We got the information.
I want to see that. I came in late, so I do want to see that.
We got the stills, and we got the stuff from Ref Guru. Okay, and before I'm gonna steal your thunder. I'm gonna be like Eminem.
No, I'm gonna circle back on this, because this is something that we need to talk about too.
We will, but I'm gonna steal the thunder in one such thing like what Eminem did in that wonderful movie where he talked about the other dude on the stuff that he was going to say in his, that he crapped on himself. The Raiders lost the game because Daniel Carlson, who is probably one of the most opportune and reliable kickers other than theirs and Butker, who's out, and also the kid that plays for the Ravens, reliable, long distance, almost always gets the field goal. The Raiders lost because they left 9 points on the board. 8 Mile. Thanks, Zach. Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
And so that's my thing. The Raiders lost because they couldn't get 9 points on the board. They outplayed, in my estimation, they outplayed the Chiefs that game, just like they outplayed the Chiefs overall last Christmas. Although I think the Christmas game was a little bit closer than this one. I mean, as far as what it was, but to me, this was the game where the Raiders pretty much, not always, pretty much owned the game. But 9 points. If you get those 9 points, you're not worried about the last play. But there are 2 plays that are screwed up. The very last play, which, again, watch my show.
Save that. You got to stay on the show and save that. We need to circle back to that last play.
Okay. Well, we're going to save the last play, but it also, and maybe Alex will come in on this as well. The 4th down play where they didn't call the guy over for the first down. Earlier, it was either late 3rd or early 4th, and the Raiders had to go for it on 4th down, and they were snubbed. Great play there. Don't run in the friggin' middle when Chris Jones is in the middle. I like a quick boot or a quick pass to the outside.
Time this year, the Raiders got stuffed on 4th down against K-State.
Yeah, I'm saying, but don't do it. But it shouldn't have come down to that, and I really think. Yeah, double Jack and Coke. You got it there, Dreamweaver. The thing is that I honestly believe that no matter what the announcer said, and by God, please, for Raider Nation, and I say this, if I am ever put in jail because I clocked Al Michaels because I saw him out in public and I probably had swing with my cane because I'm kind of old and he is too. But I would swing my cane and I would clock the son of a bitch. That's the worst I'm going to say is son of a bitch, because he is such a living, breathing Raider hater. You can tell that when he said, no, that's not a typo on the score. The Raiders really are. When it's that
yep.
the attitude. I can't stand Al Michaels.
He's just the old NFL. I mean, he's got that in him. It's the old NFL against the Raiders, and he's a part of that.
I had that when you and Alex will say, because we're talking about Marcus Allen. I said, "Oh, you mean the Kansas City Chiefs fight?" No. When Al Michaels did that interview with Marcus Allen for Monday Night Football in the early '90s, I remember I was in San Diego, and I just wanted to clock him there because all he did was being Marcus's mouthpiece when he had an issue with Al Davis. Okay, he's always hated the Raiders, and I can't stand him. So again, I think the call on that call where they had to go for it on 4th down, bad call as far as the play call. But I don't think they should have had to run it. I think that they should have at least stopped and friggin' looked at it, because I think it was a 1st down. But that's just me. I'll take your word on that. And then we'll talk about the last play, Alex, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of
that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know we'll get into that. I'm prepared. But I don't disagree with what you said in that the Raiders outplayed the Chiefs for sure. And it ultimately came down to Carlson missing the field goals, which I mean was just crazy. Was he 1 for 4 or?
Yeah, 1 for 4.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah,
made the first and missed 3 in a row.
And you know, I was on Coach's show last night, and you know, it's the same issues I've talked about with the Chiefs were, you know, on full display in that game, and in that their left tackle specifically is really hampering the offense. And for whatever reason, this defense has, you know, decided to make you know, more of the mediocre quarterbacks in the league look really good. You know, in that Bryce Young looks like he's playing at Alabama when he goes against the Chiefs, and Aiden O'Connell, who threw for 60-something yards last year, goes for 340. So, you know, the
first time, you know, at quarterbacks thrown over for 300 yards against Kansas City the whole year.
Yeah, that's the first time they've given that up since before the Eagles Super Bowl win. So it's wild. But you know, them losing their second corner and having the, you know, next guy stand up has become an issue as well. You know, it was good to see Pacheco come back, and he had a 34-yard run. You know, and they kind of, I don't know why, I don't know if it's just the flow of the game or not, but they seem to go away from the run a little bit more than they had in the previous weeks. You know, I think Pacheco and Kareem both had 7 carries apiece, which is, you know, the past few weeks we've seen Kareem get 20 plus. So, you know, that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was like a good AFC West matchup game. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I certainly was nervous at the end with how the game was going. And, you know, at the end of the game, just a mental mistake was made that just fell into the Chiefs' favor. And that's happened a few times this year. And, you know, I think that's, like, I agree with the coach has said this before, you know, that the Chiefs kind of have this mystique about them now based on what they've been able to do, to where it's like some teams will just are overstimulated in the moment and find a way to have some mental error that, you know, like that they just find a way to lose the game basically. And like, you know, you saw it last year in the AFC West game was the championship game, like Zay Flowers was absolutely worked up after he caught a huge ball, gets the ball, goes to dive for the touchdown, gets it poked out, and that's changes the game. And, you know, it just, things like that happen. And honestly, it's not on JPJ. As a fellow former center, I'm going to stand up for that. It's on his damn guard who tapped him and told him he was ready to snap.
It's actually more, it's on Aiden O'Connell, because O'Connell clapped his hands.
Yeah. So,
and then, of course, the guard is like, let him go. Hey, he clapped his hands.
And that's what I'm getting at. And like, just the heat of the moment, you have the Chiefs on the ropes. You're, you know, in Arrowhead. You're so close to setting it up for Carlson to get his redemption. And in all reality, like, I fully believe if he had the opportunity to kick that kick, he would have gotten his redemption. And, you know, and it's just, you make mental errors, like you make a mental mistake like that. And, you know, you talk about, I haven't looked much into the call. I'll wait to hear
Watch the shows. Watch the shows.
I sent it to you, Alex. I sent it to you already.
Yeah. I mean, all I know is that technically the right call was made. So
yes and no.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, okay.
And I will say this. So like Richie Riche is as unbiased as he can be. Ref Guru will call out officiating when they, I almost said it, F up, and they effed up. And just like when the refs screwed up the inadvertent whistle in Cincinnati in the last playoff game that the Raiders went to, when people stop, you hear a whistle, you stop play. Now, and this is the setup there, Alex. The call was an illegal shift, which was correct. That was correct. And what happened is that obviously the other dude on the other sideline had a wrong call, an inadvertent whistle. He blows the whistle, goes timeout, and then calls the wrong friggin' penalty for motion or what do you call
formation.
Well, not it's the other one. It's you're in false start. Thank you. False start. Yeah. So he's going false start. He blows the whistle and goes timeout. At that point, the refs made the major F up. And I'm sorry you're gonna say, well, bullshit. But at that point, the play is null and void, and the play by rule needs to be replayed because the flag was correct of the illegal motion, but the fact and this is well, actually it was a legal shift. But at that point, when there's an inadvertent whistle by rule of the referees, you redo the play from the original marker, from the original time, and they threw it the F out. They didn't even want to go into that. That is the conspiracy theory that actually works. And again, please watch my show on from Sunday, and please watch NFL Nation Live earlier on my channel. Yes, it's a blatant friggin' come watch my shit, but hey, if I don't do it, nobody else will. Okay. Watch the show. And again, Ref Guru is a former retired, well, he's a former and now retired NFL official, which calls it like he sees it. But it's as unbiased and correct as can be. As stated, the Raiders left 9 points on the board, off the board. They outplayed the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were gifted by the referees at the very last play. We don't know how it would have ended, but the Raiders didn't have the opportunity to say, hey, this is what could have happened.
Well, it's going to be interesting because they sent the footage to the NFL. I'm still waiting to hear when they actually get back and what they say, if there's like an apology or what.
They'll get the letter that the Raiders, and in the John Madden book, they said the NFL would always get the letter like about Wednesday, so it's probably due in today. The NFL would give the letter, especially it should be overdue considering it was last Friday, right? They would get for a Sunday game where the refs screwed up, they'd get the letter by Wednesday and say, oh, yeah, we kind of screwed up on that one, but sorry, sucks being you. And they would just let it go because that's the way it is. The Raiders lost the game because Carlson didn't do what he needed to do, but the referees in two very important times screwed the Raiders. And that I'm going to say that for sure.
Well, hey, Cal, at least it's not like, the Steelers game with the Franco Harris catch. Hey, how many security guards do we have here?
I mentioned that on NFL Nation Live.
Oh, did you?
On NFL Nation Live. And that's true, guys. If you look at the Immaculate Deception and Franco goes into the end zone, look at the tape. There is no call. There is no call by the official when Franco Harris goes by Jack Tatum, who's wearing number 31 at the time. That's a trivia question. There's no call by the officials. The officials huddle in the dugout of Three Rivers Stadium. And they don't know that they were on the phone with New York, but dollars to donuts, they probably were. And then and this is true, though, that the head official asked the guy that was running security at Three Rivers Stadium, said, how many guys do you have on security at this point? Remember, all the Steeler fans are liquored up. It's past the fourth quarter, and it's going to be an effing riot. The guy said probably 7-10. He goes, that's all I need to know. He comes out of the dugout because they were playing at Three Rivers. He raises his hands for the first time, signaling touchdown for Franco Harris. That's just the way it is. It's been that way for a long time. Alex, I'm sorry.
One cherry on top. Let's get back. But Franco Harris asked millions of times, was that a touchdown? He would never say yes or no. He would never answer the question.
Just like Brady would never say that it was a fumble. But he finally did on a show. And again, Alex, I want to say it was a great game.
Yeah,
it was a great game. And the best thing about it is my son's dog didn't piss like he pissed on last Christmas because I had Tourette's syndrome. So I didn't have to smell ammonia because they left on Thanksgiving. So I didn't have to worry about that on Black Friday. But it was a grand Kansas City Raider game. But
for sure.
You're winning with smoke and mirrors at times. Like you said, you're winning when you need to. The team is a fantastic team. I hate saying that, but it's true. It's a fantastic team, and the thing is, it's scripted to get that friggin' Swifty. If the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, they will
probably perform.
They'll get their three-peat. That's scripted.
Hey, I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, F you, Alex. I love you, but that's it. F you. I don't want to say the Super Bowl. That's just the way it is.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I will give praise to Brock Bowers because that dude is for sure an animal, and it's going to be a problem for a lot of years. I mean, he was just torching anyone that was covering him, including Trent McDuffie. So yeah, I mean, that shout out to him for sure. And I do like Sarah's point, that those were no chip shots for Carlson, and they were all 50-yard plus field goals, and it was a pretty cold day. So I mean, it does, I think, to some degree fall to the offense and not being able to move the ball, getting to the other half of the field as effective. I mean, they did have like the home run play. I mean, Bowers had a couple huge receptions. Trey Tucker had that huge touchdown where he just blew past everyone. So I mean, it was there at times, but yeah, those drives it just stalled out, and that's kind of how it went for the Chiefs too. Like I said, all I know is that technically the right call was made, and me as the Chiefs fan, that's all that I really care about. So,
like I said, it was the right call, but then they made a wrong call to blow it out of the water. That is the truth.
Well, yeah.
Well,
so, Jack, I don't know.
I gotta say, what Bowers did, he feasted. He got 10 receptions, 140 yards, 14 average, 1 touchdown. I mean, the kid is still on pace. I mean, it's going to be so much easier. He needs 3 receptions to break the all-time rookie from last year.
He's beaten that. Yeah,
that's going to be an easy one when you got this many games left. But,
don't jinx him, Jack.
You better chill out.
Yeah, don't jinx him.
But I mean, he's playing amazing. And I mean, it was impressive, some of the catches he had in that game. Especially the one with McDuffie draped all over him, and I mean, he snagged it one-handed for I don't even know. It was like 40 yards. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, and like I said, great to see Pacheco back. I'm excited to see how they use both of those guys moving forward. There is still, I don't think it's unfair to say that Kelsey has, lost a little bit of a step, and Argus had a little ability to be as open as he was, but there also seems to be kind of a mischemistry with him and Mahomes right now, because honestly, if they were on the same page, he would have had that touchdown over the middle where Mahomes thought he was going further out and he broke in. And so, there's you've seen those misplays at times, but those opportunities are there, and whatever you want to call them, they are 11-1 and clinched the playoffs already. And I'd rather be the ugliest 11-1 team than the prettiest 1-11 team. So,
right, I can't disagree with that.
But I mean, they need a improved tackle play, specifically left tackle, which I don't think that's why it's a coincidence that they signed DJ Humphries damn near 5 minutes after the final whistle of that game. And I think there's already talks of them ramping him up to be the starter, because at one point, I don't know if you guys noticed, but they benched both of their left tackles and slid Joe Tooney out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that, I mean, that's a problem when you got to do that. And I mean, credit to Max Crosby, he exposed that to a greater degree.
Oh, wait a second.
And Chason.
Thank you, Caleb Chason. I hope I got that. Chason. Caleb Chason great. He just was eating that kid's lunch.
Absolutely. He had 1.5 sacks that game.
Right, and he freed up because everybody's shifting to Crosby, and he got it. He was just eating that kid. He took his lunch money. He took his IRA, Roth IRA, and 401k. He took the guy's wife and girlfriend and just took them all away from him. The kid had a great game.
It was alarming. And like I said, I don't think that just expedited them signing DJ Humphries, who did tear his ACL last year, but appears to be ready to go. So maybe that helps shore things up a little bit, because that the tackle play, in my opinion, has certainly impacted Mahomes, in that you can tell he does not trust he has the time to fully read the field, and he has to rush through some things or just hit something that's quicker rather than wait for something further down the field to develop. And that's because not only is his right tackle a penalty-ridden individual, but whoever's at left tackle can't seem to block for longer than 0.5 seconds. So,
Alex, do you think that may be as a result of, we'll call it the Tampa Bay syndrome?
What do you mean?
When they had shitty tackles against the Bucs, they lost the Super Bowl.
Right. And so Mahomes is
they also had the worst graded left tackle last year by PFF, and they won the Super Bowl. So I mean,
no. But my comment is more surrounding the fact that if you have a couple games where, as a quarterback, you're asking your tackle to do the thing, and they're not able to do the thing, you're gonna hearken it back to the one time you remember where you couldn't actually do the thing when it mattered, and that was during the Super Bowl, with that interior / outside linebacker pressure that lost you the Super Bowl. I mean, to rights, you guys should have actually won that Super Bowl. Like, I actually think the Chiefs were actually the better team. Like, look, it pains me to say it aloud.
They would have won if Tyreek just caught a ball that hit him right in his face mask.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is, like, I actually think the Chiefs were the better team. It's just, it cannot go. You just can't ignore it, right? Which is, a quarterback is going to rely on their past experience to then inform their current play, right? And so I do wonder if Mahomes is kind of reprocess, because everything about a quarterback is about processing power on the field. It's like, ingesting and then decision making, right? And you kind of alluded to that, was saying he doesn't feel he has enough time. Well, yeah, that's processing. He has got a fast enough processor to assess what's in front of him and what's around him. And so then the question is like, okay, well, is he just simply going off of experience to say, hey, I remember this. Yeah, do you know what happened when that happened? Is I got slaughtered in the Super Bowl as a result of poor tackle play because of bookend injuries. The only difference now is they're not injured; they're just trash.
Yeah,
like they're not playing up to the level. And then the other, so that's kind of A, and then B is, do you think that Reed, if he wants the Chiefs to get to that three-peat, needs to start altering his offensive scheme to provide better assistance with in-blocking tight ends?
No. Quickly answer that. I don't think they're going to do that, and because they signed a different left tackle that should be an upgrade and is a veteran. Because I think part of the problem is one of them is a second-year guy, and the other one is a rookie this year. So, it's especially at left tackle, that is a lot to ask. For a younger guy, especially going against the
3-year spot
players. Yeah. So that's
a 3-year spot.
It's tough. Yeah. They got DJ Humphries, who is being ramped up to step into that role. And I think just providing a competent veteran presence over there could help shore things up. Because, the Chiefs have arguably the best interior trio in the NFL in Trey Smith, Reed Humphrey, and Joe Cooney. Yep. And I mean those three guys are the sole reason why they have any offensive production. And Juwan Taylor can be effective at times when he lines up on the line and doesn't jump before the snap.
He doesn't line up on the line.
Yeah, I mean he's good for one penalty a game. But the guy can pass block. That is why they signed him. He has like an 85% win rate in pass blocking. And when you watch him, he is like a huge dancing bear that is pretty damn good at pass blocking. So if they could just get a competent left tackle, which is what we hope DJ Humphries will be, I think that everything's kind of aligning at the right time for them to pick things up a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. Because you also, you got to factor in that they just got Pacheco back, and Kareem Hunt was just kind of the serviceable place carrier there to get you, I'm going to get you 3 yards, but don't really ask me to get you 5 because I don't got that in the tank. Like, it's the old guy at Lifetime Fitness that's like, I'm just going to box out and rebound, but don't ask me to handle the ball. And now that they got it, and you saw the pop with Pacheco in this game. I mean, he busted out a 34-yard run, and that was the one thing I wanted to see from this game is that he didn't lose a step with the type of injury that he had or look different. Because sometimes you never know when someone gets injured, they can play a totally different way, once something significant happens that, like, well, I don't want to go through that again. But you did see that pop. So, factor that he's returning. This is only DeAndre Hopkins' third game with Mahomes. And so they're continuing to build that chemistry. And I believe that the Chiefs have kind of been consciously load managing Kelsey a little bit until we get later into the year because he is 35. Because it's just
I agree.
There's a stark difference with how they've used Kelsey in the past versus how they use him this year. And I just find it hard to believe that just over one offseason after winning the Super Bowl that you would decide, you know what, we don't need to throw this guy the ball 12 to 15
Alex,
times.
I kind of saw that last season towards the end. He kind of dropped off. But you got another tight end. It was Clay, if I got his name right.
Noah Gray, man. And he's awesome.
Stepped up. Yeah. He stepped up big time. I mean, he's taking those extra catches, which is a good thing for Casey in the way of distributing the ball around the field. You just can't focus on one guy, which is a good thing for the Chiefs.
Jack, do you know why that is though?
Because they're focusing on Kelsey. That's what
they're focusing on Kelsey. But they're focusing on Kelsey because Kelsey can go off at any moment, right? But on the flip side of that, I also think that Noah Gray has benefited tremendously, which is Kelsey has solidified his status in the NFL.
Oh yeah, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. It is that is it. We're done. Thank you. Bye. That's it. Right. And so
full stop. Period. You forgot to say full stop. Period.
Full stop.
And I do agree when the cameras come on and when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to get the ball even more.
That's got to be my line. So full stop. Period. I agree. But Jack, this is what the Chiefs have going for them, and this is why. If I'm the Chiefs, I'm finding a way to get Kelsey to stay with me for another 3 years. I want him to have 2 tight ends under his wing.
Yeah.
Right.
He has a legacy.
I mean, Noah Gray's been behind him for, I think this is third year.
Third year.
So.
But no, third year. But this is exactly what my point is. Unlike every other tight end that is elite, no one's questioning Kelsey's greatness in terms of his caliber of play. I'm sorry. The dude is in the top echelon, not just of our era, but all time in terms of stats.
Yeah, any era.
Any era. He is that damn good. And when you end up with a guy who is at that caliber, he has no problem imparting knowledge to younger guys that are underneath him because, at this stage of his career, the only thing that matters to him is legacy now. So he's won the Super Bowls. He's got the accolades. He's basically a lock for a gold jacket. He's got an acting
career.
He's got an act. Yeah. No, but actually this is what's super interesting. In my opinion, him and his brother are both Hall of Famers.
I agree. I mean, what other center can really pull like what he does?
I actually think his brother is in an elite group of centers in the NFL ever. Like, that dude was amazing. But
this is a great question for Alex. How many centers can you see pull?
No, yeah, Kelsey was kind of 101 with his athleticism and how he could. I mean, the way the Eagles used him was unique. Like, if you go watch now, since he's gone, like, they don't do some of the stuff they were doing last year. And it's because they don't have a guy that can get out there like he could.
Yeah.
But I mean, also consider where he was drafted too, and the fact that he had that career, because he was a later pick. Like, he wasn't supposed to be good.
But my point is that Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, for that matter, but Travis Kelce in particular, he's got nothing else really left to prove other than a legacy. So the Chiefs would do themselves a solid by paying him a fair salary, load managing him like they do in the NBA almost for some of the veterans, but have him act as like the coach on the field for these younger tight ends.
Udonis Haslam.
Right. Because the thing that most fans just completely miss is the tight end position is actually one of the most complex positions on any roster. And anyone that knows anything really about football is, and frankly, I'm going to point back even to the Raiders for you guys there, is Bowers is a fantastic pass catching tight end. Fantastic. However, he's got a lot to develop when it comes to pass blocking and run blocking and the other elements of being a tight end. He's just so darn athletic that you just can't ignore him. Like, the dude is elite. Now, what he needs to do to really have that storied long career, and frankly, he's got the potential to maybe even surpass Kelce if he gets a competent quarterback, which is he's got to get the pass blocking and run blocking in line where he's no longer just looked at as a one-trick pony. Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, like, these are two dudes that are in our recency bias that are all-time greats, no question. And they have been a complete, well-rounded tight end at their position. They pass block, they can run block, and they can pass catch, all three at upper tier, upper echelon levels. And there's really no argument. I'm sorry. Like, it's just a fact. Now, KC needs to get another dude underneath Noah Gray and going from there. George Kittle is a well-rounded tight end, but the problem with Kittle is that the guy plays stupid, not smart. Kelce plays smart.
Well, I agree with DZ. I think, Kittle's probably the best blocking tight end in the NFL right now. So, I will kind of, I'll kind of push back a little bit. Bowers is actually pretty good at doing a run block and pass block. It's just that based on, having Michael Mayers there, who's a bigger tight end than Bowers, and when they go 12 personnel, which they do a lot of, you're going to use a Michael Mayers more in your blocking because Bowers is so athletic and gets so much more mismatches.
You can't have that guy.
You're going to have him go out and run more routes.
He's running routes.
Yeah.
And I mean, in all reality, what exceptional, exceptional run blocking, I don't think is really considered for someone's Hall of Fame as a tight end, especially in today's game. It's going to be how many consecutive years does he have 1,000 yards, and how many receptions does he get in the season and touchdowns. So he's got all the tools to definitely pass Kelce. In my opinion.
I agree. I actually think he does. But when I'm looking at what you guys need to do and what KC needs to do is you need to get another tight end to work under Kelce, extend him on some kind of reasonable contract that he agrees to and you agree to.
They did do that to some degree already.
No, but I mean,
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. They drafted Jared Wiley, who is molded the same way as Kelce, and he's a former quarterback, converted tight end in college, and he showed some promise. And then he tore his ACL actually, but he's got hurt and was out for the year. But you've definitely seen the Kelsey impression on Noah Gray's play this year. I mean, you saw it at times since he's been there, but like every team, every defense has certainly accounted for Kelsey and almost bracketed him to some degree because they know, I mean, that's Mahomes' security blanket, and that's opened up the door for Noah Gray to be more effective, and he's taking advantage of that right now. And I hope that by teams seeing these other viable options in the offense, that opens things up for the routine suspects, if you will, with the Chiefs.
And Alex, and one thing too, in the way of talking about Pacheco, he got that 34 carry for 34 yards. It's like he's got the potential to hit the big ball because he didn't do much else on the other 6 carries for 10 yards during that game. And
he had 7 for 44.
Yeah, 7 for 44. So if he got the 34 yards, so he's got.
Do the math,
right? And I will say this, and you said this before a couple times. It's like every team's Super Bowl, and being AFC West rivals. The last team to beat KC on Christmas Day again. It was an upset, and I saw the Raiders play with passion during this game. Again, this was their Super Bowl. They know, like mathematically, which. Congratulations. Mathematically, you guys knocked the Raiders out of any chance, which we had no chance for a while.
Oh, wait a second, Jack. We're out of the playoffs?
Yeah, right? No, but now it's official. So, but the Raiders, I mean, getting 434 yards against 329, we had our weakest link. So hats off, Cap. This kid from the practice squad from the last couple of years, Zamir McCormick, has not gotten any opportunities at all, sitting on the practice squad for 2 years, comes in and has a heck of a game. AOC, again, we talked about earlier, over 340 yards. No team has done 300, and he played like a pro. After coming off all these weeks of hand injuries, sitting on the pine, it was their best game of the year. So it gives a lot of Raider fans a lot of, hope for the future. If you can play this type of ball, I mean, they've been in it for the last 3 weeks. I've been talking about it. We're coming into the very last, 4 or 5 minutes of the game and find a way to lose. And we did this week, but it just shows this team's got heart, and it shows that we got players on this team. We just can't fuck it up. Keep finishing off the way it is. And boy, after Gonsby has been gone, the team is improving every single week, which I like.
Jack, you're in the similar position to what the Chargers were in last year. Once I finish this comment, I do want to move on to Alex discussing his Chargers versus the Chiefs. But you're in a very similar position to what the Chargers were in last year. Although I will say I think you're slightly further behind because I think you're a few more pieces away from where the Chargers are this season. I think your team needs more bolstering of your defensive line and offensive lines, which I do believe with a proper draft you'll be able to do. But I don't think you're going to be able to get it all done this year. I think you're going to need 2 full drafts in order to completely get yourselves back to where you need to be. I think what you need right now is, because you're going to need to get your quarterback of the future in this year's draft, assuming you're in the top 2.
Just kidding.
If you're not in the top 2, then you're better off actually retooling the entirety of the rest of your roster to get yourselves to a point where your offensive, defensive, and other position groups are completely shored up. And then in the 2026 draft, where I believe the quarterback class is much stronger.
Arch Manning, baby.
Yeah, Archie.
Right. Where I think the 2026 draft class has a much stronger quarterback class overall, including Arch Manning. But that's just an example where I believe if you do that, then you're in a position where you have young talent, you've got depth, you've got other elements. You can trade 2 or 3 first-round picks plus a couple seconds to move up into that number 1, number 2 spot and get your quarterback of the future for your team, and kind of jumpstart the Raiders from, basement team in the NFL in terms of bottom 1, number 2, and immediately get yourself up into that top 10, in terms of talent.
Richie, I'm going to say this, and then I'm gonna bid adieu to everybody. You're correct, kind of, because I agree that it's going to take 2 drafts.
Yep.
But I also think that this draft and a free agency period where you have $120 million, I believe, is what the number is.
I think it's 103.
Okay, whatever. I know it's over 100. So if you take the guard from Kansas City and you take plus minus them, you debilitate them and as strengthen us, like I said before, the new version of taking Rodney Hudson away from them, and you get another volatile, viable tackle in free agency and spend a lot of money on them, and then you draft well this next draft, because remember, we got JPJ in the last draft, and we got Glaze, who is turning into such a surprise.
Biggest surprise.
Yeah. And so you got that, and we're gonna have to get a left tackle because again, Colton Miller is going down. Is gone that other side. His injuries and his give a shit are not quite there like it used to be. So if you draft and you get some people there, you can do it in a year. You're still going to need that extra year of drafting in free agency, like you're saying, but you can turn this around in 1 year. Okay. I agree with DZ. We need more than a quarterback, but you can do so much with free agency in this one draft, to include getting another interior defensive lineman to go with Wilkins. Because remember, we're doing this without Wilkins. And you can throw in maybe Tyree Wilson is gonna get that third year to where the lights just jump out and he is that guy.
So Captain, this is the problem with what you just said, right? Is there's 2 positions that are statistically improbable for you to be able to do this year in the draft by keeping them cost controlled. And then I do think we need to move on to the Chargers KC game, because that's obviously.
I'll listen to you further and then I'll split.
So one is quarterback in the NFL or at the NFL level, statistically speaking. If you don't get your quarterback within the top, we'll call it 15 in the NFL, your odds of getting, I'll even go even further than that, top 5 typically in the NFL, you're typically not going to end up with a franchise level quarterback, because the top tier quarterbacks typically are found within those top 5 picks. Cool. That's one. The Raiders need their quarterback of the future, because I think it's fairly clear that you likely don't have him on your roster right now. So that's one.
Correct.
Oh, wait, here's my surprise face there.
Right. But this is the problem with what you just said. And my Broncos are in the same position, by the way. So this is why I kind of make this thing. Right tackle and left tackle in today's NFL are such premium picks in the draft that the best left and right tackles are almost exclusively found within the top 15. And you do not have 2 top 15 picks. You just don't. And so that's why those 2 seasons are required.
I get you, but here's what you do forget, though. Like you were saying, who was saying that? Oh, I'm sorry. It was Alex was saying that their left tackle was good enough, or that the left tackle for the Broncos was good enough. Miller right now is good enough.
Glaze is good enough.
Well, yeah. Glaze is ascending. You get a tackle with a guard this year via free agency in the draft, and you get that quarterback. And I still say that you can do it with AOC 12. I almost broke my own rule. AOC 12 this year behind a decent offensive line. And by the way, Richie, you can have a bunch of running backs on somebody's practice squad, but if you touch Sincere McCormick, I'm going to come out and I'm going to find you again, and I'm going to kick your ass, okay? Because he's a great, and you know, I see that. And again, I agree with you, Richie, but I got to run. I'm hungry, and I got stuff I got to do.
I'm going to take over on this. You know, I agree it was 2 years. So let's say they got a Sanders or a Ward. Bye, Cap. Salute,
no
brother.
red button.
No button. I'm just hitting the X on top. No red button. No red button. We'll see you guys later. Hey, we'll see you. Have a great rest of your show.
See you, Cap.
So, Richie, you're going to be kind of happy with this. I see 2 years. I say that they're going to draft a quarterback. And I think next year, you know, no matter who it is a Cam Ward or Sanders, Sanders, Dion said, hey, I want my kid to go in the right place. I want my kid to sit. So he's got your philosophy on this. So, yeah, you're going to have to probably play someone like AOC next year. And we've seen what AOC's done. This was his best game of his career this last week. To say he's going to replicate that week in and week out, no, I don't see that happening. So, yeah, you got to give the kid some, the time to learn. And then, of course, if he falters, you got to bring him in. So I'm kind of going your philosophy on this one in the way of letting that whoever they draft sit for a little bit, because you still have a young guy. It's not like Minshew's going to be here next year. What you got, it ain't going to get any better. It's only getting worse to go into that second year, and you got that $103 to $108 million cap.
I think that's the wrong choice.
You think it's the wrong? Wow, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's make sure that everyone knows Richie says to have the quarterback sit is the wrong choice.
No. That's not what I said.
Oh, I think you said that was the wrong choice. That was what I'm talking about.
Pay attention. Slow your roll, pay attention. I actually think that AOC 12 should be either traded or cut.
He's on a rookie contract from a fourth round. Why cut him?
I don't care. He's not ideal for you. The point is if you're going to go after, say, Sanders or Ward, both of those guys have some mobility to them. The only quarterback that you currently have under contract that has some mobility and ability is a Minshew. And I think that what you should be doing is building your team around Minshew for next season with a proper offensive line and better skilled players and a rookie quarterback, knowing that you're probably going to improve from your record this year, but not be, incredible. However, the next year, when you guys get a replacement tackle, maybe a wideout and another defensive guy, et cetera, then all of a sudden the Raiders are basically exactly where the Chargers are this year. It's just they just need those extra 2 years.
Okay, I have a question back to you.
Because my Broncos were basically in the same position. This year right now, because of our head coach, we are overperforming where we should be given our roster talent.
But we talk about on the show, like what is one of the biggest things a quarterback can't do is turn the ball over. Have Minshew played one game this season where he hasn't turned the ball over at least once?
No.
And how many games did he turn the ball over? Twice.
Right, but Jack, my point is that what you've seen right now is Glaze learning the right tackle position.
Agreed, but that's the right tackle. But I'm talking quarterback. So you got a guy that's a fourth round, on a rookie contract.
You don't think the offensive line matters for a quarterback?
Oh no, it matters. That's what we're talking about before the show. We're trying to steal Alex's guy.
Hold on, whoa. We've literally seen this dude's quarterback, who is not only a first ballot Hall of Famer, but they may as well just make his bust now in Canton and just wait for him to retire. Okay, like just call like we're done, right? Like Mahomes is not only a first ballot Hall of Famer, he may as well just lock his spot in now, right? He lost the Super Bowl because of the quality of his offensive line, and that is a universally accepted opinion in that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. My whole point when I say this is Gardner Minshew is a much better quarterback than he has been with the Raiders, and it is in large part because your offensive line is not up to par. I am not slandering your team, trust me, I've been more critical of mine than yours. My point is that I think you guys need to solidify and identify the style of team you wish to be on offense. Get the offensive line to actually play that type of play on the field. Get your quarterback to back it up. And you're probably going to be one or two offensive linemen short of that goal by the end of this next offseason. And then you're going to then bring in those additional reinforcements either via free agency, which I think is unlikely for quality, but I think you'll bring in depth and then bring in the starters via the draft the year after, because you have a very, very talented front office guy, not in the guy that you poached from the Raiders, but in the other guy that I think you should keep instead.
Okay. Well, I disagree with that, in a big push. I just look at Minshew again when he played against your Broncos, 25 for 42, 230 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. And then, you got AOC coming after missing 4 or 5 weeks, going in for 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. And that's the difference between AOC and Minshew. And Minshew, you signed him for a 2-year, $25 million contract versus a rookie quarterback on a quarterback on a rookie salary. I'd rather keep AOC 12 versus Minshew. I get it. This is the worst he's ever played. And Gonsby's gone. And I just mentioned earlier tonight that the Raiders offense has played better the last 2 weeks against your team and against Alex's team, because we got a different offensive coordinator. And again, so I see improvement, but as a whole, and I think, most of Raider Nation would probably agree with me, we don't want Booger eating Minshew. We would rather have AOC 12. So I'm going to segue that. And then, Alex, I do have a question. Right. Since you guys are going to go all your teams have a chance for the playoffs. And then, Alex, before you leave, I do want to ask you one question versus Broncos versus, Chargers. So take it away on the next game.
So just one thing to mention in Jake's comment there, I need you to look at Minshew's stint with the Colts and tell me that he is.
And that's horrible. What we hope for, but he didn't show up.
Right. But the point is that the Raiders are a different team than the Colts, and you need to put the right team around him. My whole point is, like the Chiefs have done, that guy over there, and let's just be honest, they're a juggernaut as a result of their vision. You need to plan for what you want, build the team, and then get the guy. That is how you end up solidifying yourself for the long term. Now, you can do it in reverse, but you have to be more patient when you do it the other way around, which is get the guy and then build the team, because you have to understand that you're going to end up with a lot of guys on your roster that don't fit what you're trying to do, and you just have to be very systematic and understanding with what has to take place. In fact, in addition to that, I think you can look at the Chargers this year and see there's a few guys there that don't belong. And then there's a whole bunch of other guys that do belong. And that's because they have a quality head coach, just like Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs, in Harbaugh with the Chargers. You have 2 high-quality, very intellectually gifted, high football IQ coaches that both know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that is why the Chargers have turned around so quickly. That's also why Andy Reid has had success across 2 different teams in the NFL and gotten them to the highest of levels. And I mean, there's no higher level than the Chiefs are right now. Like, let's just call a duck a duck. The only franchise that has ever been maybe slightly higher than the Chiefs are right now is the Bill Belichick Patriots, right? Where they had 7 Super Bowls across 15 years or something stupid. So either way, the point is that Andy Reid is in rare air, and it's not even debatable at this point in terms of what he has been able to do with the Kansas City Chiefs with Mahomes as his quarterback. And even before that, you saw flashes of it even with Alex Smith. So the question now is, we got a head-to-head matchup again, if I'm not mistaken here, Alex, with you and the Chargers. Robert sadly isn't here with us to kind of give his perspective with the Chargers. However, Alex, curious as to your thoughts. I don't think it's any secret. This Chargers team is different. They just are.
Sure.
They just are.
No. I mean, yeah, it's definitely total 180 spin of what this Chargers team was last year. That is no doubt. I think they still have some issues. I mean, defensively, they're pretty sound unit and only getting healthier. Although I think there's some potential key players that need to be monitored that didn't practice today. But I mean they got Bosa back, they got Mac back, Tulalapapu, however you say his name, has been absolutely crushing it. So yeah, defensively they've been doing good. Offensive side of the ball, I mean, yeah, like DZ just said, like they've been a 1/2 team, and not been able to. I think the last 2-3 games that I've seen, the second half has been a lot worse, as well as the receivers outside of McConkey have not really stepped up. So, they still are excellent Charger squad. Like I think I think the Chiefs are a 4-point favorite at home. I do think it'll be a typical AFC West bloodbath, if you will. The last showdown was 17-10. So I think biggest factor for the Chiefs in this game, in my opinion, will be controlling the time of possession, and I think that's got to be through the run game and using both Pacheco and Hunt. And I think that we do see them put more of an emphasis on that this week compared to the 14 total carries they gave them against the Raiders. But I just think you got to wear down this defense, and you got to overcommit them to the run to open things up in the pass, in my opinion. And that's kind of how we've seen teams playing them outside of Atlanta later on. But I mean, as you saw, if they got to know you're going back there and just trying to pick them apart through the air, like they are an opportunistic defense. So they got to control time of possession, and I think they got to do that through the run game. And I can't see mistakes. Like the last time they played, Mahomes threw a pick that absolutely killed the drive. He's been off of his turnover spree lately. So you got to hope he continues to protect the football. And I think the biggest matchup to watch will probably be, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but all talks have been that DJ Humphries will be the starting left tackle Sunday night. And I think that would be the biggest thing to watch, just to see if he left tackle. So just to see how that impacts
Bosa and Mac, that's going to be the interesting matchup for sure.
Because if you think about, I mean, looking at the rest of their games, they don't have. I mean, I don't really think about the Broncos game, and that's only because it's Week 18 and they've already clinched the playoffs. They could very well be resting people at that point.
Wait, you're not answering my question. You see the Broncos in the playoffs? See them Week 18?
Huh? Or Week 17? The last game of the season against the Broncos.
Okay, 17.
Last game of the season against the Broncos, and that's but this Chargers game and then the Steelers game are the two teams that have elite level pass rushers, and I think will be the biggest test. So it's going to be pretty much an immediate test for DJ Humphries, but like I said, I think that's the matchup to watch if it is confirmed that he is the starting left tackle, because we'll be able to somewhat see in real time, just how much the tackles have impacted this offense up to this point of the season.
I totally agree with that. I mean, though I look at this game, I look at the Chargers defense. I mean, they're still like one of the best teams in not giving up points. They play with, Derwin James in the red zone. They play phenomenal. So you're going to have that Kelce-Derwin James matchup when you guys do get down the field to see how that works out. And it's going to be super interesting because, the Chargers are I think they're on third downs. I think they're second in the league now on third down defense. But your Chiefs are the first in the league on third down. So, I mean, that's going to be an interesting matchup to see what these team stats are going to look like.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I do think it'll be a close game. and I mean, every AFC West matchup has been up to this point, and frankly, almost every one of the Chiefs' games have been close up to this point. They're a 4-point spread. So my final prediction, as I'm going to give before I get out of here, I'm going to say Kansas City wins 24-21.
I see this as a lower scoring game.
That's fair.
I just do. I mean, I think that your two teams have proven. Let's put it this way: we are deep enough into the season at this point where you are what you are, right? Like, I think that is an absolute fair comment to make across the board. The Raiders are primarily a defensive team that needs a lot of work on offense. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers are both highly competent defensive teams, and they have proven to be so the entirety of this season. So I see this as something along the lines, if you're asking kind of like my general consensus on like the actual end score, I see this as being something to the effect of like a 17-13 kind of game in terms of where the score lands. I think this is going to be one of those types of games where there's going to be, some modest movement down the field and then preventing a field goal, and then modest move down the field, and then one team gets a field goal, and then
you guys got to call the scores, but you got to say who wins.
I think Kansas City
I did say
Kansas City wins. I think Kansas City beats the Chargers, in my opinion, and I think it's like I said, I think this is like a 17-14 kind of, like this is one of those sub 20-point games for both teams. The Chargers have basically had that as their MO for the majority of the season.
Chiefs.
Ooh, okay, that might change my opinion a little bit.
Right, but
I got it super close too. I mean, I have it. I'm Alex. I'm right there with you. It's like I had it 20-23, but I thought LA was home, but I wasn't 100% positive. I had LA upsetting you guys. If you guys win this, you close it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you close it out.
They clinched the AFC West that they win. So
right, and so I mean that's a big one. But I also see it's like sweeping the Chargers. Guys won the first game. I'm still going to call. And I was wrong last week. I did call the Chargers, but I like the way they're playing, and I like the way their players go against their strengths on their defensive end, go against your weakness. One of their strengths, again, I just talked about, was the third down, which is also your strength. I think your teams match up really well. If you can match up your interior offensive line with their tackles, bar none, it would be the best offensive line in the NFL, period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go that they're going to do an upset. I just can't see them being swept. So I'm going to go 20 Kansas City, 23 Chargers.
Well, Jack, I have to respectfully disagree.
That's okay.
But I respect your opinion. Yeah. And on that note, fellas, I got to head out.
Alex, good luck on the show.
Yes.
We'll send people over your way as soon as we're done here.
Absolutely. Good luck to your guys' squad. Well, good luck to the Raiders this week. Well, actually, hope they lose. That's what you want.
So, yeah.
It's a love-hate, that's for sure. Can't win to lose on this one.
Yeah. See you, boys.
See ya. So, my Denver Broncos game is going to be neither a win nor a loss. We are in our bye week. The only thing I will talk about is I am curious as to what changes we're going to make specifically pertaining to the run game, given what I said earlier. We have struggled in the run game. I think that'll be one thing that the Broncos will look to bolster / improve as part of the
you got to start handing it off more to Estimate. I mean, you just mentioned, a guy that you want free agency that I've had on the Raiders, and Estimate is that bowling ball. I mean, he's a Josh Jacobs kind of mold style player. He's a little slower than Josh Jacobs, but he's that player of a mold. And you know what? Start feeding him the ball. Give him the opportunity to get in a groove versus give him a few carries here, a few carries there. As we both know, when you got those bruising running backs, you got to kind of work your way through it and start getting into that group. So I hope Denver does that. And I will say that, just looking, I wanted to talk about this earlier because I got to say, I got mad respect for your defense and, Patrick Surtain. I mean, to me, right now, I think there's nobody better. I look what he did to Bowers, that Bowers just crushed McDuffie. And it's like, we'll have a conversation, between us guys about that. I mean, Surtain was the only defensive back that I've seen this whole year to actually kind of corral Bowers. No one's been able to do that. And, and I've seen his work that he's done before. And he is actually truly the real deal. And you mentioned earlier in the, before the season started, like, to trade him, I wish you guys would have traded him, but you should be pretty happy that you didn't trade him, because I don't know probably a better defensive back in the league than Surtain right now at this point.
I can agree with that. My gut reaction with, just generally speaking, just overall, is I could see this be the week where we transition to Paslowski at right tackle for my Denver Broncos. He is a much better run blocker than McGlinchey is. I also think that he's an equally as good pass blocker as McGlinchey. I think McGlinchey's likely on his way out at the end of the season, and I think the Broncos are hoping that Paslowski can just not get hurt. Like, that's been his issue. He's been, a rolled ankle or this or that. And at some point, you can't ignore his talent. The dude's good. He literally is. He is that good, for sure. Another guy that I'm curious to see if the Broncos are going to start elevating is Thomas Yasmin. He is 6'5", 251 pounds, and he runs some kind of insane 40 time. He is a very fast but very big dude, and he reminds me of a guy that could very well be that X factor later in the year for my Denver Broncos as a pass catching tight end. I wonder if we're going to start seeing him worked into the lineup after the bye week here. Those are I have a couple predictions for the Denver Broncos bye week, which I think we would be well suited to implement. One, move on from Michael McGlinchey and move on to Alex Paslowski, and only go back to McGlinchey if Alex gets hurt.
What do you think of this? McGlinchey, he's not doing it. And then I want to talk about the Tampa Bay. Yeah. But what do you think about McGlinchey moving inside, to a guard position?
Too light.
Too light? But he's playing tackle?
He doesn't have enough weight.
So then if he's a small tackle, then he's got to be a bigger guard, right? I mean,
no, it's the other way around. Tackles are typically lighter, and
tackles are usually your biggest boys on a team, and then your guards are going to be smaller because they do a lot more pulling.
So Alex Forsyth, as an example, as a offensive lineman, is 6'4" and 312. So here, just give me 1 second. Let me. I'm just sorting this real quick just so I can kind of give you an idea. So guard center, Quinn Miners is a hybrid guard center, although he's only a guard, really, if we're going to be honest. He's 6'3" and 320 pounds. That dude is one big guy, right?
Big boy.
He's a big dude. We have Ben Powers, who's 6'4", 310. And that's another one of our guards that is on our active roster. In terms of tackles, they are typically your taller guys because you want the arm reach because they're dealing with faster guys.
Yeah, you need that length.
You need the length out of the arms, right? And so typically what you end up with is these dudes that are like really big and really tall, and they're very athletic. So as an example, we have a guy named Frank Crum who is an incredibly athletic guy, but he's raw. He needs to develop. But he's so good that we don't want him to go to another team. So he's a developmental guy that I could very much see the Broncos looking to try to, bolster. He's 6'7" and 315. Mike McGlinchey is 6'8" and 315. So that's a prototypical tackle, right?
Well, yeah, the size, yes, because when you start getting to be like that 6'8", 6'9", well, then you're starting to block your quarterback's vision on the inside. But even though watching McGlinchey, I don't remember him being. It's been a number of years. Like being a Joe Alt, height. I just don't remember him being that tall. So,
well, I mean, I'm going to break down the Broncos tackles right now. Alex Plazowski, 6'6". Mike McGlinchey, 6'8". Frank Crum, 6'7". Garrett Bowles, 6'5".
That's what I was more thinking about, both sides, about
Garrett Bowles is the shortest out of all of our tackles, but the problem is McGlinchey's 6'8". That is very tall.
That is tall. That's what I'm saying. Then you are kind of blocking your quarterback vision being on the inside. So again, right. I apologize. I didn't realize that he was that tall. I thought he was shorter than that.
And Matt Pert, who is like a swing tackle kind of auxiliary guy for us, is 6'7" and 318. So again, that's the mold that most tackles are at, because you want that length.
Right. You want that arm length.
Yeah, you want the arm length. And you typically only get that out of really tall dudes or disproportionately, disproportionate guys who are like, 6'5", but they have super long arms, right? And so
that would be the best.
That's the best, but they don't exist. Like they're just like
right.
Very few of them. Like there's very, very few of them. Basically, you end up with a dude that's 6'5" but has a 6'8" arm span, and that's just a rare breed. Like you're already talking a percent of a percent of a percent that can play the tackle position at the NFL. Mm-hmm. You're talking such rare air when it comes to a guy like that. And so I see Frank Crum as being the guy that the Broncos are hoping kind of works into another version of Alex Plazowski. But Alex Plazowski is 6'6" and 314. So he is kind of a shorter, but kind of like stronger, bigger guy. So he's that interesting mix of size and speed and the ideal dude for the right tackle position, where he has arm length, but he also has size and is slightly shorter, which means he's got a lower center of gravity. Problem is he's been hurt, but he's got the strength. So you like what you get, but the problem is he needs to stay healthy. I see Mike McGlinchey, who's 6'8" and 315. He had potential. He was great for the early stage of his career. He was always better as a run blocker than a pass blocker. But Alex Plazowski seems to be a bit of an interesting mix. Either way, that's where I see my Raiders. For your Las Vegas,
I love that. You said you see your Raiders. I like that.
Sorry, for my Broncos. I crossed.
I know.
To your
it's kind of funny. I love hearing it though. I'll have to get that on a loop and have Captain play it over and over and over.
What do you see your team doing this game, and what is your preferred outcome?
Well, preferred outcome, that's a tough one. I'm always like, I never want to lose, but there's no point in winning after Kansas City just officially eliminated us from the playoffs. But I am tired of losing, and I don't want to set any, I haven't looked it up, what's the Raiders record for the most losses. I don't ever want to see that happen. I like what this team is. I don't think this team needs a total rebuild. I think it's a reconstruct, getting guys healthy. When you're missing 6 starters almost every single week on the defense, that's not even counting offense, then it makes it tough. So you're going against the Bucs. The Bucs have one of the top 10 offenses in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is playing out of his mind this year. This is his best year, by far, coming out. They did lose, was it Godwin? He's gone for the season. They do have another great wide receiver. They drafted a running back in the 4th round who is now, he just ran for, what's his name? Bucky Irving. Ran for 185 yards in the last game, setting some Tampa Bay records out there. And, now they're starting to put him up there on that pedestal based on the season he's had. Again, put him in there with the Bo Nix and the, Brock Bowers, in the way of talking about, Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. So his name is in there. So it's going to be interesting in the fact that Baker got, cleated in his last game. He only missed like 2 plays, and they came back and did an overtime win against the Panthers. So he's going to play. Again, Bucky Irving, he was listed questionable earlier today, but I from my boy Shefty, got the word that, he is going to end up playing in this game. So it's going to be, a Bucs offense to see if they're going to wear down the Raiders defense, which is what's happened every single week when you play against good defensive teams. But I also going to kind of see this like a trap game for Tampa. So again, just like I just did with, the Chargers and the Chiefs, I see that 3-point game and it can go really either way. And I've scribbled on my notepad like 3 times. I've had the Raiders winning by 3 points and the Raiders losing by 3 points. And I actually have it at exactly the same score that I called the Chargers and Chiefs game. The Raider fan in me, in the way of just wanting to win every game, says, I want that score to be 23-20 is the way I saw it. The Raider fan in me, who's been a fan since 1974, who's seen so many losing seasons. Last Super Bowl win was 1983. Last Super Bowl appearance was 2002. This win isn't going to do anything for me. So that Raider fan says, I don't want this win. I want them to do what they did against your Broncos. I want what they did against the Kansas City Chiefs. I want what they did against Miami. I want to see a competitive game. I want to see fight. I want to see those guys who want contracts to be there in each game, each and every week. But for once, I haven't seen, a Raider team be this low in the way of getting a draft pick, which they're number 2 right now, to actually be able to draft a quarterback. And if you get one win, there's like 6 or 7 teams that are going to have the same type of record, but based on your strength of schedule, you can go from number 2 to another 7 and 8. So that takes us back to last year when your Broncos had the number 9 pick? No, number 12 pick. The Raiders had number 13, which we both did well. You got your quarterback in Bo Nix. I got Bowers. And that'll be an interesting conversation that we can have at a different time about what do we think about switching those up just for the fun of it. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to drop. I don't want to go backwards to have to spend a lot of draft picks, because then what we're talking about, what you brought up, and how many more years would you have to do it if you had to trade all those picks? So the Raider fan in me that wants that pick says Raiders lose 20-23. The Raider fan that just wants to win every single week says we win 23-20. And that's how I'll call it.
Yeah, so I have this as a 31-23 game in favor of the Bucs. I think this is going to be a game where the first 3 quarters are closer, like in terms of, a volleying back and forth of some sort. And then I think the Bucs will eventually wear you down. And I think that eventually the Raiders will start making mistakes, making errors, etc., maybe even an injury. And I think eventually Baker Mayfield will outperform the talent deficit that you guys have on offense. And I think eventually it will kind of start to separate a little bit there, just because I think that there's a greater desire to prove that they belong in the Buccaneers than the Raiders right now, because the Raiders right now are struggling, in my opinion, to cling on to an identity of sorts. I think the defense is good, and I think they're going to be good enough to keep you guys competitive. But ultimately, I think they're going to get worn down because the Bucs are that's just the team they are. They're
a good offense.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's like, again, that's like it's been every single week for the past 3 weeks. It's like you get super close, but can't close it out. And, and I see these like, with whoever the odds makers, that are out there, and it's all been like, a big spread, but it's come down to like 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we generally agree that the Raiders are going to probably come close-ish, depending on which one we land on, and likely fall short. I think that's a consensus here. I kind of agree with that general assessment. The one thing I do know for sure is my Broncos will not lose this week. Okay. We won't. It's not possible.
Who do you got after the bye?
We have the Colts, and that'll be an interesting discussion for next week's show. I have a whole notes already pre-prepared for next week's show. I have an A and B. It'll depend on how the Colts do this week. That'll be one game that I will be watching. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the show this week. We've had a great show. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have comments for any one of us, reach out to us on X or Twitter. And if you have anything else you'd like us to discuss and are willing to wait till next week, leave those comments in the chat. We will bring them up and discuss them like we do every week on this show. Click the like button, share with all your friends. Let's get more fans of the AFC West in this show and asking questions and enjoying football talk. And until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out.